How would you know?
Who really killed Sarah in the shocking Yellowstone finale? Fans are buzzing with theories, but the show left behind plenty of clues that may hold the answer. From suspicious characters to hidden motives, we're breaking down everything you might have missed to uncover the truth behind this jaw-dropping twist. What went down in the shocking episode? Yellowstone fans have been hit hard over the past couple of weeks. John Dutton is dead. Yeah, dead. And nobody seems to know how to deal with it. Taylor Sheridan called it an apocalypse of change. And he's not wrong. Some fans have given up on the show completely because, let's face it, Yellowstone without Kevin Costner doesn't feel like Yellowstone at all. Others are clinging to conspiracy theories that John faked his death. But realistically, Costner's not coming back, so where does that leave us? Honestly, it doesn't seem like the show knows either. This is why Sheridan is killing some very important characters literally out of nowhere. With just a few episodes left before the likely end, it feels like we're crawling toward the finish line. Between endless Texas flashbacks and blatant product plugs for 4-6's Ranch Vodka, it's obvious Yellowstone thought it had more time to tie things up. At this point, you'd be forgiven for wondering why they didn't just give us one final epic episode instead of dragging us through this awkward stretch of filler. This week's episode takes us back to the moment John's murder was set up. We see the hit squad pulling the strings, and Beth driving back from Texas, gasping as if she feels the gunshot. Something's wrong, she tells Rip over the phone. Meanwhile, Casey wakes up from a nightmare, certain it was more than just a bad dream. Is the show hinting at a supernatural twist? If so, bring it on. We need something to spice this up. Back in the present, Casey digs into the case. He heads to the coroner's office, where they uncover signs of foul play. Abrasions on John's toes, bruises on his legs, proof he was restrained before he died. The doctor changes the cause of death to undetermined, giving Casey the green light to reopen the case. He's relentless, tracking down the murder weapon, a stolen livestock office service pistol. We might not find out who pulled the trigger, he tells a detective, but we can figure out who paid for it. Casey doesn't stop there. He storms into Jamie's office and slams him onto the desk like he's ready to throw down. Jamie swears he didn't do it, saying, "How would I even benefit? I'm out of the will now." But Casey isn't buying it. He warns Jamie, "You'd better be telling the truth, for your sake and mine." Meanwhile, Montana's new governor, Steve, a random new character played by Gareth Williams, jumps right into undoing everything John worked for. His first big move? Teaming up with market equities and pushing through the airport plans John fought so hard against. He also blocks Jamie from accessing John's will while the case is under investigation, putting himself in charge. Beth, as you'd expect, is furious. "We either sell the land or we lose it," she tells Casey. Thomas Rainwater finally shows up again and offers to help. "There's no saving this place," he tells Beth, "but we can try to keep as much of it as was pristine, like when my grandparents walked it." Beth doesn't seem too optimistic. "There's no preserving it," she says, "just delaying the collapse." As if things weren't messy enough, Jamie and Sarah Atwood are now in serious trouble. And well, you know what happens next. We will explore this angle quite in detail as we move forward in the video, but before that, there's something that episode 11 tells us, and it has been a long time coming now. The meaning of the flashbacks is finally explained. Yellowstone Season 5 Episode 11, titled 353, finally delivers some clarity regarding the flashbacks that have taken up so much screen time in the second half of the final season. After a 2-year break, the series returned to what seems to be its grand finale, kicking off with the shocking revelation that John Dutton, played by Kevin Costner, is dead. However, instead of diving straight into the aftermath, much of the episode and the season as a whole has been consumed by flashbacks. This approach has left fans divided, especially since these sequences, which started in episode 10, make up nearly half of each episode so far. In episode 11, the flashbacks continue featuring Beth reluctantly leaving Rip in Texas and heading back to Montana overnight. At the same time, Casey, Monica, and Tate are shown settling into their new home and enjoying their first dinner together. These scenes eventually converge with the present timeline as John's murder unfolds during Beth's drive. The episode shifts focus to Casey's new role as he begins investigating his father's death. The flashbacks attempt to highlight the stark contrast between the peaceful lives the Duttons were leading before John's death and the chaos that follows. However, they've been more frustrating than insightful for many viewers. Without clear markers to signal they're set in the past, these scenes often create confusion, leaving audiences unsure of where they are in the timeline. Adding to the frustration, some flashbacks like Beth's trip to Texas feel like filler content rather than crucial storytelling elements. This has created a significant issue for Yellowstone, which only has 5 episodes left to conclude its epic narrative. With flashbacks consuming so much screen time, the murder storyline feels rushed, and many key characters' arcs remain unresolved. Fans are left in the dark about the ultimate fate of the Dutton family and the ranch that has been the centerpiece of the show. That said, the final flashback sequence in episode 11 does pack an emotional punch. As Beth drives home, scenes of John's murder are intercut with her sudden sense that something is terribly wrong. She calls Rip, who attributes her feelings to exhaustion, urging her to pull over if she's too tired to drive. At the same time, Casey jolts awake, seemingly aware of his father's death on a deeper, almost psychic level. This shared moment between Beth and Casey underscores their deep connection to John, in stark contrast to Jamie, who remains unaffected. These flashbacks also serve a broader purpose. They show the happiness and hope the Duttons had just before John's death. Beth and Rip were considering a permanent move to Texas, content in their relationship, while Casey and Monica had finally found peace in their new home, with Monica shedding tears of joy over their future. John's death shatters all of this, and these moments of happiness make the loss feel even more devastating. While initially frustrating, the flashbacks ultimately set the stage for Yellowstone's final showdown. The battle between Beth and Jamie is no longer just about controlling the ranch or avenging John's murder. It's about fighting for the future the Duttons were building. John's killer remains a threat, and Jamie's manipulations could destroy the ranch, which is both John's legacy and Tate's birthright. As this series moves into its final episodes, the stakes couldn't be higher. The war for the ranch and the Dutton legacy promises to be brutal, with the fate of the family hanging in the balance. With lives on the line and long-awaited answers finally within reach, Yellowstone is gearing up for what could be one of the most intense finales in television history. And while doing so, it ended up killing enemy number 1 of the Yellowstone fans, Sarah Atwood. The shocking death of Sarah Atwood. Taylor Sheridan masterfully delivers a cold dish of karma in Yellowstone's gripping 11th episode of Season 5, where betrayal meets its brutal consequences. And honestly, Taylor Swift who? With John Dutton's murder rocking the Dutton legacy, Sheridan leaves no stone unturned as Sarah Atwood spirals into panic, her carefully laid plans imploding under the weight of justice. The episode wastes no time diving into the chilling details of John Dutton's staged death. In a scene that sends shivers down the spine, 3 men storm into John's bedroom while he sleeps, injecting a sedative into his foot before dragging him to the bathroom. They force his hand to pull the trigger, turning murder into what appears to be a suicide. But Beth Dutton is no fool. Her instincts scream foul play, and when Casey demands an autopsy, focusing on signs of struggle, the medical examiner confirms her suspicions. John Dutton's death is no suicide. It's homicide. The revelation sends shockwaves through the family, but it's Sarah who feels the ground crumbling beneath her. Go figure. As the mastermind behind the hit, she initially reassures Jamie Dutton that their tracks are clean. There's no evidence that ties us to this, she tells him, exuding confidence. But when the homicide investigation hits the news, her composure fractures. During a market equities meeting, Sarah abruptly excuses herself, her gaze fixed on the TV. Panic-stricken, she races to buy a burner phone and desperately dials the number of the killers. Dead silence. The number is disconnected. With her lifeline gone, Sarah smashes the phone in a fit of rage, grabs a bottle of vodka, and tries to drown her fear. Jamie isn't faring any better. At home, he unleashes his frustrations on Sarah. "What the fuck have you done to me?" he demands, his voice trembling with anger. Sarah doesn't flinch. "What I did is exactly what we discussed that you wanted. I just kept you from the specifics to protect you," she fires back, deflecting blame. But Jamie isn't buying it. "You took it for a $6 million investment deal that will be worth 3 times that the day construction is complete," he snaps, exposing Sarah's motivations. The argument boils over when Jamie slaps Sarah, who retaliates with equal fury. The tension reaches a breaking point as Sarah storms out, leaving Jamie to grapple with the fallout of their toxic partnership. Moments later, Jamie calls her, his voice laced with regret. "That was inexcusable," he apologizes, trying to mend the fractured alliance. Sarah, though shaken, responds with a cold calculation. "You have to trust me. You have to start believing in yourself." It seems the two might salvage their big fight until fate intervenes. As Sarah drives away, a car pulls alongside hers. A woman in the driver's seat politely calls out, "Excuse me." Sarah rolls down her window, suspicious but composed. The man in the passenger seat leans over and asks, "Are you Sarah Atwood?" Her response, dripping with caution, "How would you know?" seals her fate. Before she can react, the man pulls a gun and fires. Sarah is executed in cold blood, her death playing out over the phone as Jamie listens in horror. "No!" he screams, his voice breaking. And lo and behold, there's another loose end in the show now. Once again, Yellowstone is in a frenzy and everyone wants to know, who killed the most hated character on the show? Who killed Sarah? Of course, there's one name that stands out as a prime suspect, Beth Dutton. Beth and Sarah have been embroiled in a bitter rivalry since Sarah's arrival. And after Sarah orchestrated the murder of John Dutton, it seems entirely plausible that Beth would strike back with deadly vengeance. Beth's thirst for retribution has been a driving force throughout the series. While Jamie tops her list of enemies, Beth has never been one to let someone who's wronged her family go unpunished. With Sarah playing a critical role in John's staged suicide, it's not far-fetched to believe that Beth took matters into her own hands. After all, retaliation is in Beth's blood, and her orchestrating Sarah's assassination would be the most shocking or morally questionable thing the character has ever done.